Hello everyone, and welcome to a Web Code Fun tutorial where we have a look at developing websites. Today's lesson is all going to be about putting today's date on a web page using the JavaScript Date Object. Now why we might want to do this is because we may wish to put the date on our web page for any number of reasons. It might be because we've got a sale countdown, or because we just want to display it for our users to know. Here's an example on the Guardian website, a news website in the UK. You can see that they've got the date in the top left hand corner, and this is the sort of thing that we're going to put on our website in this tutorial. Okay, so we start with our basic HTML page, although this is written in PHP because I've got some PHP running for the site, but essentially it's the same. And what we have is the basic setup with a bit of CSS to make things look pretty for our tutorial. We've also included the JavaScript file down here, which is where we're going to be writing our JavaScript. And most importantly, we're going to be playing around with this span tag here, where we've got an ID of today's date, which we'll use to link to our JavaScript. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using that to put the date in and learning how that's done with JavaScript. We can see here is that web page as it currently is, the basic text around there, and the little gap for the span tag here, which is what we're going to be filling. Okay, let's start by heading over to our JavaScript, and we're going to create a variable which is going to contain the date object using the date constructor, which will give us some basic information. So we're going to create a variable with the date object, and this will look a little bit like this. We don't need to keep it in memory, so we'll just call it a let, and we'll say let full date equals new date, like so. Okay, now let's display what this actually gives us to start with so that we can understand what we've done. So as we sort of spoke about earlier, what we've done is we've given the span tag an ID of today date, so we can use that to help us to display the information we're collecting. So if we go document.getElement by ID, and we've given it today date as the ID, so that will enable us to access the span tag that we've got. And then what we'll do is we'll change the text content of that, and we'll put in the full date variable and see what it prints for us. Okay, so let's head over to the website and see what happens in our span tag. Okay, so we can see the information that the date object has given us in the variable that we've managed to put into the text content for our span. We can see that it's Monday, January 18th, 2021, time is 2:46 GMT, and that's because it's the time zone I'm in. And that's all the information that's very useful and that we want to know, but it's not really displayed in a way that we would like to give it to our user, particularly not as good as, say, the example that we used at the beginning of the tutorial on the Guardian website. So let's look at how we can get that information out of the object and display it in a much nicer way for our visitors. So we'll start with the first bit of the information that we want to put on our website, and that's the day. As we can see, the return of the date object in our variable has given us mon for day. You may want to put this in, but what we'll do today is we'll have a look at putting in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that sort of string for the day of the week. We can't get that directly from the object, but what we can do is use one of the methods. And the way to learn the methods, the easiest way I find, is just to go to a reference for them. W3 schools are very good for that, and I recommend using them to have a look at all the different methods when you start using objects in JavaScript. As you can see, there are quite a few. If you can remember all those off the top of your head, then you're doing much better than me. But using this quick reference, we can have a look down and see which one we might want for the job at hand. So for this part of it, we want to display the day. So we can see that the getDay method will give us a return for the day of the week between 0 and 6. So we can use that information to then turn it into a string to say what we want it to say. So the way we're going to do this then is by creating a variable, an array variable that's going to store the days of the week as we want to display them, and then we can use the return of the 0 to 6 information from the method to translate that into a day using the array index. So let's go through this nice and slow so we understand what we're doing. So we'll just call this a day of the week variable, array even, and then we'll create that into array. So we'll go day array equals, and then we'll create an array like so, and within the array we'll stick the days of the week. So one thing you would learn if you did this trial and error first is that the 0 is actually Sunday and not Monday, so we just need to put the 0 as Sunday, or the first index in our array is Sunday, which we will use in a second and I'll explain, so don't worry if this sounds a little bit confusing. What have we got next then? So Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then Friday, and Saturday. Slightly misspelled. Okay, so that's our array. So what we're going to do is use the day array that we've created here in order to take the get day return of a number between 0 and 6 and translate that into a string representing a day of the week as we want it to. So sometimes it's easier to write the code and then explain what the code is doing. I think this is one of those examples. So what we're going to do is we'll create a day string, and we'll just put that into a temporary variable for now. So we'll call it day string will be good, and we will access the day array like so, and then instead of just putting an index number in here, so you could access part of this array by, say, putting in a 0 or a 3, and that would correspond to the relevant string within here. So that would be 0, 1, 2 and 3 would be Wednesday. 0, 1, 2, 3, yeah, that's correct. And then, but what we're going to do is we're going to use the get day return in order to make sure that we get the exact right day of the week based on what the date object has told us. So we will access the full date variable because that's where we've stored the information. We will call the method against it, which is get day, and hopefully today being Monday, that will return a 1, and then we can obviously translate that into Monday from the array index. In order to test that, what we'll do is we will copy and paste that, save us a little bit of time, and so we'll access the span again using the ID today date, but instead of putting the full date in there, which will display all of the information, we'll now ask it to display the day string for us, and hopefully this will work successfully. So hopefully this will now say Monday, and there we go. After refreshing the screen, we can see that it says Monday. Fantastic, so we know that that's working properly. So now we've got it displaying Monday, the next thing we're going to want to do is to put the date in there. So let's have a look at how we can do that. Fortunately, it is easier than doing the day, which returns a number between 0 and 6, which we then have to turn into a string in our particular example. For the day, we can for the date, we can see that for the get date method, it will return us a day of the month between numbers 1 and 31, which is exactly what we want. So in order to do that, what we'll do is we'll create a date variable to store it in, and we'll call that let date string. And then so all we need to do is we need to access the full date variable, which is where we've stored the information from our date object up here, up there. So we're accessing that. We're going to call the method on it, which is get date. For some reason it's not autofilling. Yeah, and then that will give us the number stored in our date string, and to prove that we will once again just stick it on screen so we can see what it's displaying for us. So we're going to access the span with today date, which is the ID we used. We'll change the text content, and rather than display the day string, we'll now ask it to display the date string, and that will hopefully give us the number that represents today. And we'll refresh the screen. This is 18, so Monday the 18th of January, which I can confirm it is at the point of recording this part of the tutorial. Now that we have the date, we want to add the month. Now unfortunately, if we head back over to our W3 schools and look at the get month method, we can see that just like the day of the week, it gives us a number, which makes sense because it means that you can use it however you want. You can, display your own sort of take on the month, whether that be you want to say it is, July, or June, or whatever you want it to be. In our particular case, we want to display the full month text on our website, so we will once again create an array and use the index of the array to give it the string that we want it to. So let's do that then. Now, as they say on TV, here's one I prepared earlier, and rather than you watch me type out each month whilst you slowly watch the time tick by, I've decided to do it beforehand. So this is an array very similar to the day that we created up here. So down here we've just put it in. Unlike the day array where a naught represents Sunday, it is a bit more traditional in the month array, and January is 0, so that's helpful for us. Once we've got the month array, we can, in a similar way to we did with the day, we will create a month string so that we can put it on the screen, and then we'll use it at the end of our tutorial to put everything together. So if we go month string like this, and again we're going to want to access the month array that we've just created, so we're accessing this here. We will use the index number that's given to us from the methods in order to access the correct string that we've put into our array. So we'll do full date.getMonth, and then that will translate the 0 that will return, and that will obviously give us the string January. And to prove that, we will once again copy and paste this and just change span tag at the top there and put in month string, and hopefully we can see that works correctly. And there it is, it's given us January. Okay, so we've got Monday 18th of January so far. So all that leaves us with is trying to get the year. If we head back over to our date objects methods on W3 Schools, we can see that we can get the full year by using get full year. Nice and simple. So again, let's show that in code. So we will create a variable to get the full year, and that will look a little bit like, we'll call it a year string, and we will access the full date variable, call the get full year method, and that will pop that from the full date into the year string. And just to see how that displays, we will change this and display the year string. Hit refresh and see this says 2021. Now all that's left is to put it all together. So if we create a string with everything together, now obviously once you're doing this in the real world you wouldn't have all this excess code lying around, but for the tutorial purposes obviously we'll leave it there for display and you can understand what's happening. But we'll create a full string of the date. Oh dear, lost the ability to type. And so what does that look like then? So we've got, let's put it in a string called full string, and that is going to equal everything together. So we'll start with our day of the week, so our day string. We'll add a little space in between. We will then add the month, the date, which is the date string. Again, we'll just put a bit of a space in afterwards. Then we'll add in our month, which we've got in our month string. Add a space, and then before we finish we need to put in the full year, which we've got in our year string. And then all that is left to do is to display it. So we will change the span to display the full string, and when we come across and hit refresh, it now says it's Monday the 18th of January 2021, which is exactly what we want to display. All that leaves me to say is thanks very much for watching. I hope you found the tutorial helpful. If you do have any questions, then please do ask. If you're on YouTube, you can ask in the comments below. You can visit my website, webcodefun.com, and send me an email. You can also see a written tutorial for this video there as well. Alternatively, you can tweet me on @webcodefun on Twitter, and I will get back to you and give you some help if I can. If you did like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, because it helps other people to find it as well. And if you are liking the content I'm producing, then please do subscribe. Every subscriber helps to motivate me to make some more content in the future. But that's it for me, so take care of yourselves. Thanks very much, and speak to you soon.